Hi, this is Scott Garibay, and today I want to talk about Dungeons and Dragons, and I want to talk about the backup character. So, all last week, I had a very robust, long conversation with well over 100 people on Twitter and right here on YouTube about the backup character, and I explained how, in my humble opinion, the backup character is wrong D&D, and there's a right path forward. And I got a lot of feedback, and I now understand something better than I did before. So I want to thank you guys for helping me to go through a difficult conversation, and I want to share what I understand better now about the backup character. So the backup character is 100% wrong D&D. If you are a dungeon master and you're asking for backup characters to be ready, you are playing D&D wrong, without exception, in my humble opinion. And there is a right path forward. If you're a dragon master, that's the term I use for a Dungeons and Dragons player. I don't think the word player, it's not fair. It's not fair to say, oh, the person who creates the world is the master, like, and then say, and you're just playing. Like, yeah. Dungeon master creates the world. Dragon master creates the most important character in that world, the player character, right? Which I would call the dragon character going forward. But so dungeon master, dragon master, okay? So if you're a dragon master and you're creating a backup character, you're playing D&D wrong, and there's a right path forward. And I want to explain why and why it was wrong ever to use a backup character. We were wrong for 50 years, right? And this I want this to be crystal clear. We were wrong about a lot of things for 50 years. Let's not carry those things forward into the next 50. Let's do D&D right. There's a right path, right? If you go to play baseball and you get a coach and they say, put your feet below you where your shoulders are, bend your knees, hold the bat in front of you with your elbows crooked, right? And look straight ahead with attention at the pitcher, right? And then you have another coach who said, hey, I see that you're standing with your feet together, your legs are straight, the bat's on your shoulder, and you're looking at the dugout. Buddy, you got it right. It's everything's an equal, it's all equal play, right? It's whatever you feel like. Your batting situation is unique. And if that works for you, there's a right way, there's a wrong way. Let's stop pretending. We spent 50 years doing it wrong. Let's spend 50 years doing it right. This idea that there's no wrong D&D is absurd. There's a right D&D. Let's reach it. Let's work toward it, right? And also, if you're given advice that there's no wrong way to play D&D, do you need to speak another word? Do we need to hear another sentence out of your mouth? I think the answer is no, because be consistent. Have consistent useful speech or inconsistent useless speech. And telling people that all ways to play Dungeons and Dragons are right, is inconsistent, useless speech if you follow it up with advice, direction, and guidance on playing Dungeons and Dragons. I just want to be super clear on that, okay? All right, okay. Let's keep going here. All right. So here's where we land. I now know why people used backup characters, because literally like 50 people said it. They're like, you have to have a backup character, Scott, because otherwise, what are you going to do? Twiddle your thumbs? Just sit there? Yes, that's right. Your character dies and you don't have a backup character. And you spend 5 seconds twiddling your thumbs, and then you spend 5 seconds doing nothing, and play begins, and 5 dragon masters at the table, red, white, and blue, green, black, right? You, the blue dragon master, your player character is dead. You're going to watch red, white, green, and black play. You're going to sit there, and for 5 seconds you're going to twiddle your thumbs, and for 5 seconds you're going to do nothing. And then for the other 3.5 hours of that session, you're going to mourn, you're going to experience woe, you're going to cry, there are going to be tears rolling down your face, while the other 4 player characters continue with their characters who are alive, right? It's going to be awkward for you. It's going to be awkward for them. It's going to be painful. It's going to be one of the most memorable, actually somewhat horrible experiences you've ever had in your life, period. It's going to be an interruption to the joy of the table. There's going to be no fun for anyone in that session, right? And that's right, because it's what Gary set into motion on February 7th, 1974. So let me explain. So basically, we spent 50 years thinking that fun was the pinnacle of Dungeons and Dragons, realizing it was the gutter of Dungeons and Dragons. Fun is the gutter of Dungeons and Dragons. Dungeons and Dragons is an outrageously powerful tool to understand our own intellect, to understand our emotions, to understand our own spirituality. Like, wait, what do you think clerics are? What do you think Pantheon in every single setting except Dark Sun? And why do you think Dark Sun was left behind? Dungeons and Dragons is a tool to understand our intellectual nature, our emotional nature, our spiritual nature, to answer powerful questions, to achieve, to improve, to grow, to learn, to transform. And the deepest end of this pool is understanding death. The rest of the world doesn't understand death, but we will. We're going to sit through it. We're going to go through the valley of the shadow of death, every single one of us, because Gary held our hand and led us to here. 50 years after what he started, he's like, I know you had to cut goblins in half for 50 years. Now let's cut our deficiencies in half. And the first part of that is your fear of death, your lack of understanding of death, your lack of ability to process death. But you're going to understand it now. You're going to go through it. You're going to sit through it. The other people, your other dragon masters are going to watch you sit through it. You're going to sit through it. You're going to have woe and sorrow and loss. And never, never again are we ever going to say that piece of paper that you dumped half of your identity into for 9 months, that you have sensations, memories, experiences that are unique from your own identity. We're never going to pretend that it didn't matter by having a backup character and saying that piece of paper was garbage. It was just an interchangeable piece of paper, and that this new piece of paper stops you from woe, sorrow, reflection, thought, growth, consideration of what death actually is. That's what backup characters were. They were a paper shield to protect us from learning about death. And if you're sitting at a table where a single backup character exists, that table is wrong at every single level about what Dungeons and Dragons can do and where it can take us. And the right path is to sit Shiva, right? It's different. It's different than sitting Shiva, but this culture, the Jewish people have had this tradition in their culture for a long time, right? They know about sitting in woe and sorrow and considering, and that every life matters, right? And we've spent 50 years saying that the player characters we created didn't matter, and we didn't give them time for thought, reflection, for woe, for sorrow. It's time to change that. It's time to do Dungeons and Dragons right, in my humble opinion, and leave the law wrong in the last 50. Last 50 was for being wrong. It's okay. We didn't know better. We're here. It's the next 50. Let's do it right, right? And so don't ever bring a backup character to any table again. It is wrong fundamentally. It's not a table choice. It's not a unique idea. It's as bad as walking to the plate, putting your feet together, knees unbent, bat on your shoulder, and looking at the dugout and thinking you're going to accomplish something. You're not. That is the wrong way to play D&D. A backup character is wrong by every stretch of the imagination. By every metric, we did it wrong for 50 years. Put the shield down, put the paper shield down, and get ready to learn, grow, change, transform. Let Dungeons and Dragons do what Dungeons and Dragons does. Every single word you just heard is my humble opinion. What's important is when I hear your humble opinion. When you get in the comments and send your traffic, please consider liking and subscribing, and have a fetch millennium.